Well, huge breaking news today. EA have just been sold for $55 billion, which is going to have huge ramifications on the future of gaming. How is this going to impact EAFC, the FIFA license, and the future of sports video games in general? We're going to get into all the nitty gritty, all the details, and what you guys need to know about this EA buyout and how it's going to impact FC27 and beyond. So pretty much there were rumors the other day that came around saying that Saudi Arabia and other investors were nearing a $50 billion deal to buy EA, and these were just rumors. Nothing was finalized. The Wall Street Journal actually posted it, and people were already speculating, but now it is official. Now the deal is sealed with the official fee of $55 billion bought out by the Saudi PIF, Silver Lake, and Affinity Partners. In what is pretty much the biggest video game buyout in history, this sees EA no longer be publicly traded on the stock market. They now turn into a private company, and the deal is looking to be completed and official by June 2026. Yeah, so around about World Cup time next year, that's when the keys will officially be handed over. Some key takeaways to bring out of this buyout. We need to break it down level by level, as it is, again, the largest all-cash gaming deal ever. The current shareholders are happy because their stock price goes up at 25%, up to $210 a share, but the EA headquarters logistically are going to stay the same. They'll still be in Redwood City with Andrew Wilson as the CEO. He's been the CEO for over a decade now. So it's not like they're just gonna have a whole bunch of new people come in and running the joint and just gut the company. The main figureheads, yeah, like the CEO, will remain in charge for now. And you can see this news take effect on the stock price. EA shares have gone up ballistic from $170 a pop back on Friday on the launch of EAFC. It's now hopped up to $203 US, or 202.05 at the time of this recording. After a pretty lackluster last 6 months, it looks like EA have completely recovered. The latest boost has pushed them up 57%, up 39.81% on the past 6 months. So the current shareholders are loving life. They're the ones making all the money right now. And yeah, this consortium, this Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund, it's the same PIF involved in the Newcastle United takeover, and they also have their hands in a whole bunch of other pots, especially in gaming. They're using that Saudi money to invest in Western companies and like just have their hands in so many different investments like Capcom. You've got Hero Esports. They've got a stake in Nintendo, stake in Take-Two, and a whole bunch of other companies, and that's just gaming. They are literally the definition of putting your eggs in different baskets, and they have got the cash to splash £55 billion for EA. I mean, they don't just make FIFA, as we know, or EAFC, but they make a whole range of other games. And beforehand, this investment fund actually owned 10% of EA already, so they already were invested in the company. Now they're going to own 100%. And to supplement the news, EA dropped a press release overnight with all the details in their official statement. It's pretty much just a bunch of corporate speak. It is just, you know, the PR statement, a whole lot of official corporate fluff and buzzwords. You don't need to read all this, but this pretty much just confirms everything and all the reports. This is a plan for the long term though, as it accelerates EA's strategic vision to advance the future of entertainment. Their main goal out of all of this is to accelerate innovation, growth, and enhance fan experiences across physical and digital platforms. It's just a whole bunch of words. It's just marketing speak. It is just corporate jargon at its finest. I mean, don't take them for a word they're saying. That's their aim, that's their goal, but take it with a grain of salt. And now we got people making memes already of the Newcastle ratings in FC27. Dan Burn copping a 92 rated gold card, and Alexander Isak with the 64 rated bronze. You might be seeing all these headlines, seeing all these reports, seeing all the memes pop up on your timeline, and just wondering, how is this going to actually affect the games? You know, the primary thing that EA are in the business of, not making money, but producing games. So here is my current thoughts on how this is all going to affect FC and FIFA in general, because there are some key details under the hood that EA aren't making public, but the reports are sharing that this takeover, this buyout, is actually a leveraged buyout, which pretty much, just to put in simple terms, means that EA are in debt $20 billion to Chase Bank and JP Morgan. And guess what? EA need to pay off this money and pay off their debts themselves. They don't have anyone else to back them up. They're a private company, and $20 billion of debt is a heckload of money. It is going to be a struggle, even for the likes of EA. So if you put 2 and 2 together, EA's in a lot of debt. They're already money hungry as it is. You can guarantee, you can put your bottom dollar on way more microtransactions, price hikes for games, more ways to nickel and dime the average consumer. This isn't just for FIFA, but for all these games in general. Just more greedy, money hungry tactics, and that's just not on the gamer's side, on the consumer side, but on the company side with employees. This could lead to employee uncertainty with mass layoffs to come, cost-cutting measures to reduce operation costs, and according to this article here, new EA owners hoping AI will cut costs and boost profits. As this article is reiterating a report detailing that the enhanced use of AI will be used as a way to also boost EA's profits in the coming years, as this will allow the new owners to manage a large debt load on a company that is historically carried limited net debt. As the ownership group again is betting on AI being able to significantly cut CEA's operating costs. They're banking big on AI as the future of the company, and if you thought EA were money hungry before, that's when they carried little to no debt. Now they're 20 billion in the hole. They're gonna ramp up. This is going to be insane. I'm trembling just thinking of the future. They could be planning some devious things when it comes to microtransactions. Maybe investing more into mobile games where that's more of a thing. Maybe it'll just affect the mobile games. I don't know, but there is some big changes coming. They're gonna find a way to pass this cost down to the consumer. And again, it is going to affect the gamers' pockets here. And the reason I'm so confident in, predicting this and saying this stuff is because these investment companies, these firms, they don't really care about what the company's doing or producing. That's why I don't think there's gonna be a major change with the games themselves. However, they just expect a huge ROI, a huge return on investment for the money that they're putting in. So 55 billion, which is a lot of money, but not for the Saudi investment. They've literally got trillions. But they want to see big numbers. They want to see green arrows. They want to see growth. And most importantly, they want to see profits. And that's all it is at the end of the day. It's all about money. So just keep that in mind. Keep that front and center as a key takeaway from this video. But there is some positives with EA becoming a public or becoming a private company after being public for so long. So basically now, once they've been sold off, which is looking like next year, EA don't really have to submit to any shareholder pressure. So they don't have to do quarterly earnings reports. They don't need to appease any suits or major shareholders every 3 months. So there's no need for quarterly short-term focuses. They can kind of, focus on the future, focus on the long term, which means they could theoretically spend more time on games, have a bit more polish, as they don't need to focus on what they have to present to the shareholders. They don't need to have these public meetings and shareholder events. As there is a slight caveat with the no more shareholder presentations, I guess. It just means that they can become less communicative, less transparent, if you will. As there's no more public shareholder meetings, there aren't going to be any of those major presentations like the one we saw. It was a couple of months back, or maybe a year back now, where they were showing off future open world concepts for FIFA, for Madden, for their sports titles. It was the next big new feature and new mode that they wanted to add into the game. That got huge publicity. Everyone was reporting on that. And it just means that now, once the takeover kicks in, we're probably not going to see anything like that again. So things are going to be kept sealed and not shown off to the public. So I guess now they can afford to be a bit more tight-lipped, and like little rumors and leaks like that probably won't see the light of day. It's going to be much harder to see leaks and to get insider information because they're going to become a private company. So take that how you will. However, with this strong capital backing with Saudi Arabia behind this buyout, here is where I'm seeing this investment takeover and how it's going to affect FC and FIFA World Cup games. Because guess who's hosting the 2034 World Cup? You guessed it, it's Saudi Arabia. They won the bid back last year in December, where they were initially announced the host nation by FIFA following an uncontested bidding process. And now they own the biggest sporting franchise in the world, FIFA/EAFC, and it's got me thinking, EA was stingy on buying back the FIFA license after FIFA put the price up. That's why the whole split from EA thing happened and why we've got EAFC now. But thanks to this buyout, I'm thinking that EA are going to buy back the FIFA licenses, 4 billion or however much they were asking for. That's chump change for these Saudis, man. They're made of money. And I'm thinking for sure, 100%, they are going to buy back that FIFA license in time for the 2034 World Cup. That's like 100% sealed. I would put money on that happening. However, will they buy it back in time before the 2030 World Cup? That's a big question. If they're serious about the FIFA license, if they want to really stake their claim and make the billions that they want to make, they would buy it back for 2030, but it depends on how long it's going to take to strike a deal. I mean, FIFA has already granted them the World Cup without contention, so surely they're going to grant the Saudis the FIFA license or the EA license, so we will see the World Cup, national teams, the tournament, the qualifying, all back in the game, and we don't have to call it EAFC anymore. We can just call it FIFA again. We'll have all the licenses, we'll have all the competitions. I know I'm just spitballing here. I know I'm just trying to, speculate about the future, but you got to draw the dots together, man. Surely that's going to mean something. It could be a bit of copium, could be a bit of hopium, but the Saudis, I mean, if they're serious, if they want to make that ROI, the FIFA license is what they need. It's one of the biggest games in the world, one of the biggest sporting franchises in their now owned private company. I think they'd be stupid not to. And if you don't see the vision, I don't know what the point of buying EA would be for them. This is definitely a route back to seeing the FIFA license return to the game and the World Cup license to finally have a video game. I don't have much hope for 2026. There's been no World Cup announcements for that, and the FIFA license in general has just been in limbo. Gianni Infantino, I don't know what he's doing. I don't know who he sold it to, but yeah, we're probably not going to get a World Cup game next year. The Saudi investment fund can save us and bring the World Cup back to gaming and back to FIFA. Hopefully for FC 30 or FC 2030, that's a huge W. That's a big thumbs up from me. Maybe they're just going to have to pay off that 20 billion of debt first. I don't know how long that's going to take to pay off, but they're going to need to wipe that out before they go out and acquire the FIFA license again. Now, some of the negatives we've already touched on slightly, like now the 20 billion debts. We've also got the loss of transparency. There's going to be no more, huge presentations or shareholder events. They're not going to disclose, nor would they need to disclose all their financials and all their reportings. These private equity type ownerships expect a huge ROI. So again, circling back to the increased monetization tactics, the cost cutting, restructuring either corporately or with game studios they have. And I mean, if it isn't obvious by now, getting in bed and doing business with Saudi Arabia doesn't do wonders for your reputation. Not that EA had a good reputation to begin with, but now this just puts even more doubts and more question marks over what the future of this company and how much will this actually affect the games, which is again what they're most famous for and what they should be focusing on. How much is the CEO, Andrew Wilson, going to bend and going to fold to this investment fund? How much influence are they going to have over him and their decisions, and how will that impact the wider range of games and franchises they're responsible for? It's well publicized that Saudi Arabia, they've had human rights abuse issues. They're infamous for major censorship. And I mean, you've already seen how controversial their takeover of Newcastle United was and all the sports washing allegations. So how much of an impact will Saudi Arabia actually have? How much of a hand will they make in the decisions, or are they just going to sit back and expect profits? And I've already seen a bunch of speculation and people saying that this is going to have a huge impact on the games and the content in the games in general. And I'm kind of opposing that. My little pushback here is that gambling is actually illegal in Saudi Arabia. So does that mean that this investment fund is going to remove all gambling mechanics and pack openings, microtransactions, all that kind of stuff from their games? No, they're not going to remove that. That's one of the main money makers in EA. So clearly they're a fan of opening packs and mystery boxes and loot boxes, that type of gambling. So I don't see them coming in and just making these huge changes on the corporate side and on the product side. I just see them coming in, taking over, making it a private company, and just expecting the profits, expecting the green arrows. And that's evident by still having the CEO there in charge. I think the biggest upside to all of this is that the potential World Cup license could be returning to the hands of EA with all this new capital, with this Saudi Arabian investment, and they'll have more time to work on the games and actually focus on the product, focus on the games, instead of thinking about the next quarterly report for the shareholders. However, we will lose a bit of communication. The transparency UFC probably won't be there as much. And they've also inherited $20 billion worth of debt. So the impact on the consumer side will be major. The costs will be passed down, I can assure you of that. FC27 is still going to be majority made by EA before the takeover, so I don't think we're going to see too much of a change with that game in terms of, you know, the content in it, in terms of the licensing, in terms of the leagues. Like, FC27 will be developed before the takeover eventually happens, so we're probably not going to see the effects of this in an EAFC game until FC28 and beyond. Obviously, I have my doubts, I have my worries, but, you know, that little World Cup license that's floating around, if they can secure that, I mean, like, it would be worth it. But whether they do or not, that's a different story. Nevertheless, lads, let me know what you think about this Saudi takeover. Do you think it's a net positive, or do you have your doubts? Are you worried for the future of the franchise and the direction this company is headed in? I'd love to discuss it with you lads in the comments below. And if you like this type of content, a little news report, the major updates, the news coverage, and just my first thoughts and opinions on stuff, let me know. Drop the video a like if you've made it this far. I love you and leave you. Appreciate you all for making it this far. Subscribe for more FC26 content coming your way this week. As Sir BCHD is signing out. See ya.